they have been wildly successful at bringing all of this about, and I think one of the main components of this is the fact that very few people really understand the nature of the problem. And I think that your article here basically lays out the problem, which is that when you have people who try to make this claim that they are loyal to America and at the same time loyal to a foreign government, it is a lie.
It is, and it's more than that, Mark. What we need to stand up and say is not only did they attack the USS Liberty, they did 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
They did it. I have had long conversations over the past 2 weeks with contacts at the Army War College, at Headquarters Marine Corps, and I've made it absolutely clear in both cases that it is 100% certain that 9/11 was a Mossad operation,
mm-hmm.
period.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of edification, there is a real important story out there that you heard mentioned here in this program by one of our callers the other evening, and it is flying around the Internet. And this is a story of the comments made by Dr. Alan Sabrowski on Mark Glenn's podcast. Dr. Sabrowski, the former staff director, I think his title is, of the U.S. Army War College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Now, remember, folks, this guy, Dr. Sabrowski. He's not Mike Piper. He's not George Lincoln Rockwell. He's not David Duke. He's not Mark Glenn. He's not Hesham Talawi. He's not. Well, name your flavor of the week, folks. Name your favorite bad guy. Dr. Sabrowski's one of the good guys. He's one of our military leaders. He's one of the men who taught our U.S. military, and he says, yes, Israel did 9/11. Thank God somebody out there in one of the higher levels is now speaking out. I think the dam is breaking, folks. We'll talk more about that when we come back. All right, folks, welcome back. I made it back here in time right now. Before we went to the break, I was talking about the story of Dr. Sabrowski of the Army War College. Now, I called up this friend of mine I called a credulous lad. Now, he's a pretty smart guy, but, he doesn't want to believe anything out of the ordinary, and particularly if it has anything to do with Israel, even though he recognizes that Israel is naughty. But I started off, I called him up, and I said to him, hey, you've heard of the Army War College, haven't you? And he said, oh, yeah, of course. I said, it's a pretty distinguished organization, when you say so. And, oh, yeah, absolutely. I said, they're the people who train the best and the brightest in our military. Yeah, of course they are. Yeah. I said, they're a pretty reliable source, don't you think? Oh, absolutely. And then I proceeded to tell him that there was a guy named Dr. Alan Sabrowski, and I mentioned that he had been on my program, but I said, well, then I just proceeded to tell him about what Dr. Sabrowski had to say. Now, of course, you can imagine the shock. You can imagine the shock on the part of my friend who doesn't like to believe in conspiracy theories or anything that runs contrary to what the United States government has to say, particularly about 9/11. Well, folks, this is a golden opportunity to get the word out and to really hit people between the eyes with who really pulled off 9/11. People in the military know, and of course there are many, many other people who do know, but they're not about to say it, and that includes even a lot of 911 truthers who whisper, yeah, well, Israel did 9/11, but it's easier to blame it on George W. Bush. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, a couple other things I want to talk about, but we do happen to have Lindsay from Georgia calling, and it was Lindsay who first alerted me to, it wasn't even Mark Glenn, it was Lindsay from Georgia who first alerted me to Mark Glenn's interview with Alan Sabrowski. I'd like to bring Lindsay up since he is with us here tonight. Lindsay, are you there?
Yes, I'm here now. I'm here, Mike.
I thought we were going to lose you there for a second.
No. I was actually by the phone this time. I wasn't folding clothes or stuffing my face or washing dishes or driving down the road. No. I'm right here. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. All right, where do you want to begin? You want me to tell people the updates or
You tell me what you want to tell me.
All right. All right. Firstly, I might as well just go ahead and tell everyone there was a YouTube video with the first 10 minutes of the Mark Glenn and Dr. Zabrowski interview put up on Rense.com today, about 6 or 7 hours, well, about 8 hours ago now. For 3 days it was up, Mike, and the most views that it had was 450 views, right? Well, as soon as it got on Rense.com, the view count now stands at over 14,000.
Outstanding.
So the bottom line is the reason that I was so ecstatic, and ecstatic is the word to use for this, was because for the first time since the Cynthia McKinney interview, the original interview done by Ognier at www.theinfounderground.com, this is the biggest thing since that interview, when she came out and said that over 99% of the U.S. Congress is controlled by the Zionist Jewish influence. All right. The YouTube, it's all, the entire interview is in, I think it's 10 or 11 parts on YouTube. All of this can be found at theinfounderground.com, Mike, and I encourage you to become a full-fledged member. I want to invite you on the air to give your input, to look through the articles, and become a full-fledged member of TIU.
Yeah, I tell you, I've seen from some of the links you've sent me. There's a lot of interesting stuff up there. I am so, I tell you, I'm one of these people who is remains very computer ignorant, and I a lot of times I go to try to link on or whatever it is, sign on to these things. I don't understand how the hell to do it. But
it's okay. But if I may continue,
go ahead.
Well, because I don't know how much time we have before the break. And
well, we have about 2 minutes here. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I also wanted to play a clip wherein he does come out and say, this is what all the talk is about, all the fuss is about. But before I play the clip, I do want to say something, Mike. I was on Alan Watt's show before your show. I was on for about 15 minutes promoting this, and Alan said something, and he did. I need to be honest here and say that Alan let me say my piece and let me play the clip and promote the Dr. Zabrowski and Mark Glenn of theuglytruth.wordpress.com. I don't want to be remiss and not giving credit where credit is due. Mark Glenn, our mutual friend, was the one who is going to go down in history, Mike, when all is said and done, and these creatures are and control is wrested from these creatures, and humanity is allowed to be free again. Mark Glenn and Dr. Zabrowski, there will be a monument devoted to them, I guarantee
There
it.
sure as hell should be, because I think this is a major story, and that's why I wanted to mention it first off tonight. Exactly.
Well, Alan Watt, look, you and I both know who the real people are in this movement and who are running down the clock. That's the operative term. It's called running down the clock. Giving people distractions about the city of London and troglodyte,
Hey, speaking of running down the clock, I hear the clock. You're going to have to carry that over after the break, Lindsay. Folks, we are running down on the clock here to the turn of the half hour. Stay tuned, because this is an important story that people need to know about it, so they can go to their friends and say, hey, look, the top people in the military know who did 9/11, and it wasn't them Muslims. Stay tuned. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We've got a lot of callers here, but I want to bring back Lindsay from Georgia. We were talking with him before the break. Lindsay, go ahead.
Hey, Mike, you can hear me, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to add some levity to this and say, I like prune juice, right? And I really do. And I was just thinking to myself when I was pouring me a small glass of prune juice just a minute ago, the folks at the ADL, they're not going to have to drink their prune juice tonight, Mike. Anyway, as I was saying about about shills, right? Well, after I said what I said and began contradicting Alan about